just trying to make sure it's all good. Let's see. Good. I would love to see that we are all fine and you can hear me and see me okay. If you don't mind just popping a comment to let me know, as it looks fine on my end, but just want to make sure that you can see me and you can hear me. No messages yet. Okay, so whenever you've got the chance, just pop me a message and say, yeah, it's all fine and I can see you and hear you. So welcome everyone. We are going to start doing our bits and pieces with our sugared panels. First of all, I would like to thank you for booking the class. And for those of you who don't know me or never came across with my name or anything, I'm Ribana and I teach at the Academy of Cake Decorating. I enjoy doing various techniques based on sugar, chocolate. I work with different mediums. I teach and demonstrate, not like a full-time job, because this is not my job, it's my passion. And this evening I'm going to share with you the way how I usually prepare the sugar sheets panels to go around the cake, and also how I cook and create the sails out of Isomalt to be put on top of the cake. So yeah, I've got a reply, so that means you can hear me and see me fine. Now I've just like 2 or 3 minutes ago, I've uploaded a PDF where I've put down the basic recipe for creating the sugar sheet panels, and also I've put another one as a kind of a bonus or an extra, a recipe for making those panels whenever you are in a rush and you want them to stand up in a very short time. So I'm going to start with the basic one, which involves just granulated sugar and glucose. Now on my list of the ingredients, I've put down that you can use things like corn syrup or glucose. Yeah, they obviously need to be liquid, so the dust glucose doesn't work. So you need to make sure that you've got some liquid, ideally glucose, or if not, corn syrup. I'm going to use the both tonight because I'm thinking of creating sort of a marble effect between purple and pink, as I got a variety of examples here which you've seen on the adverts, like plain colors, some patterned panels, which I will explain how I did, and I will just demonstrate some as well. But the basic project will be a mix of 2 colors, and I thought about purple and pink. And I'm going to prepare both colors using just normal granulated sugar, and I'm going to mix one of the sugars with glucose, the other one with corn syrup, and you will see the difference. I mean, there is not a huge difference, but in my opinion the corn syrup makes the mix to dry a bit slower, so it will take a bit more time to get firm, but other than that they just work similar. Now I put down again on the list the fact that you don't necessarily need a mixer, you can just mix by hand, but I'm going to do one with a mixer, one by hand, just to give you a more accurate idea. So I'm going to start by placing the sugar on the bowl. Now on the recipe I did not put quantities, I've just put percentages. Like, so whenever you prepare the basic recipe, you've got 6 parts sugar, 1 part glucose. Now before going any further and starting preparing the mix and doing the whole decorations and everything, I would like to say I put on the list that you should have a pen and paper handy, That's to write down the measurements, but also if you've got any questions, please write them down, and if you don't get the answer by the end of the course, put them on the page and we can talk about whatever question you might have. But it's more than likely I will answer your questions, but as I said, to make sure that you don't forget, if you've got something to ask, write down the question. So let's go down to see how we prepare this. Now on that PDF which I've attached like a few minutes ago on our group, I've put a note saying that if you want to prepare panels for like an 8-inch cake, you should make a mix based on about 300 grams of sugar. So this is what I'm going to do, even if the cake I'm going to use is going to be a 2-tier cake where the bottom cake is a 6-inch and the top cake is a 4-inch. But I want a bit of an extra sugar, and I will explain and show you what I'm going to do with this extra bit of sugar. So I will prepare the recipe based on 300 grams of granulated sugar. I picked the Tate & Lyle, but whatever sugar you find is fine. It's good to use. It does need to be granulated, because if you try to use the caster sugar, that is not a sparkly sugar, because the particles, the granules of sugar, are smaller in size. So obviously the light, it will not reflect as good as it does when you've got a larger, it's like with the diamonds. The bigger the diamond, the nicer the shine. Okay, so take it that way. So the biggest sugar you can find, it will be great. Now I bought some sparkling sugar, but to be honest, it's large in size but it's not sparkly, made by Twist. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let's try and just move the camera so that you can practically see. Yeah, it's not super you know, shiny, but it's large in size. While the other one, it looks quite sparkly. Okay, so whatever, if you prefer to buy some expensive sugar, go for it, but if not, this is going to be fine. So I will just set the scale to 0, and I'm going to put the 300 grams. Okay, and along with the 300 grams, I'm also going to add some shimmer. I will add the shimmer right in here. Whenever you use shimmer dusts, make sure you use the edible ones. We just had a judge meeting seminar the other week, and we've been told that whenever someone is using non-edible dust, is not good, and it's going to be a huge problem going further. So you need to make sure that on the pots, whatever brand you buy, you need to check this out. On the pot, you actually need to see that it's written edible. If it doesn't say edible, it might not be edible. It might be just suitable for coloring food, but it might not be edible. So make sure it's written like it's edible. So this rainbow dust is edible, and this sparkle edible dust from Sugar Flare is also edible. So I'm going to add just a little, because I don't have really a pink. I only have this kind of a reddish color. I'm going to use this just for a bit of sparkle. And with the coloring, I've put a note saying that I will advise you to use dust colors, but I know that you've got quite a few gel colors, and you might think, oh, but what am I going to do with those gel colors? Can I not use them? Definitely you can, but what we are going to do with those gel colors, we are going to add the color into the glucose, and that will just dilute and mix easier. Okay, so just going to put this on the side as I don't need it for now. So I've got 300 grams of sugar, and I'm going to use 50 grams of glucose. Now with the glucose, as you probably know already, is quite difficult to pour if it's at the room temperature. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave for like a minute, and then I will just wait, take the measurement and put like 50 grams. And because I'm planning to color, I will put 50 grams into a cup and then add a few drops of pink. The color I'm using is actually, that's what it says anyway, 100% natural color pink made by PME. Okay. So in case that you want, it doesn't matter how many grams, it's just a few drops. In case you want to kind of stay safe, then 100% natural color will do. There are a few available on the market. Some of them are dust colors, but this particular one made by PME is just a gel color. Okay, so I'm just waiting for that glucose to start getting a bit runny, and then I will mix the color and then pour over my sugar, and then I will just use my mixer to gently mix and incorporate everything to get kind of a, I don't know, a firm dough consistency. So I'm going to set the scale to 0 and then just pour the glucose, as I said, 50 grams. I can put about 55, as I'm pretty sure about 5 will get lost while scraping the container, so that's no problem. Okay. Yeah, so just slightly up. That's going to be a bit messy, but that's fine. That's the glucose. So I'm just going to stir the color in. It doesn't matter. You can, if you raise the temperature a bit more, because you will make that glucose even more runny. Or if you want to add a bit more color, that's not going to change the consistency in any way. I will actually put 2-3 more drops, trying to make it quite bright pink. And maybe just put this into the microwave for another 10 or 15 seconds. It doesn't need very much because it's such a small amount. You will get runny very quick. Now the red I've added is not going to change the color, but it might give a bit of a sparkle look on here. Okay. Oops, that actually turned up quite runny now, but that's fine. You can see. Okay, and I'm just going to pour this over, and using the stand mixer, it just makes your life easier because that's going to do the messy job for you. But the second load, it will be done using but just by hand, using a spatula, so you will see whatever you use, it will be fine. Okay, just going to pop this in here and just be a bit noisy now for like a minute or so. It doesn't need to be high speed, just whatever, medium speed or whatever. In the meantime, I said about the parchment paper, you probably looked online and you've noticed, you know, the cake decorators do intend to use the silicone mats to roll this sugar, those sugar panels. I think it's just so much easier and cleaner to use the parchment paper. But you do need parchment paper, not baking paper. Okay, that looks just good. And I can talk now as it's not so noisy. So parchment paper, as the parchment paper is usually treated with a bit of wax, and that makes the paper not to absorb the moisture. If you try to use the baking paper, it might, you know, just rip and you might not get anywhere with it. Now you can also crumble by hand if you notice that some particles are not perfectly done, but I'm not going to do it, just leave things as they are. Okay, and we'll just put this on the side. I'm not going to spread it yet onto the paper, as I want to prepare the purple one as well. Now it's super sticky as is sugar, so I've got a damp cloth and I'm just going to wipe my gloves. But I will also explain you about those colors, the easiest way to get them sorted. Now, with the parchment paper, I mentioned about the size of my cakes, and I did say I've got 6-inch cake. Oops. At the base. Ignore the messy look, as really I've just put some not buttercream, it's just some piping cream, the one I normally prepare with Trex. I put that in. Let me just turn this to you. So I've put that cream just to have a bit of adherence to the cake. So the cake, the base is 6" I took the measurement, but I also added a bit of an extra because I've noticed that when I roll my sugar panels, I need to leave at least 1 inch more than I should normally do over the circumference of the cake. So if, for example, the cake is 6" you multiply by 3.14 and then you add another extra inch to make sure that the length of the collar is enough to go around. It's no problem if it's a bit shorter, but you might end up with things like this particular one where I've added an extra bit over because it was too short. You need to take in consideration that the panel, the sugar collar, is quite thick. So overall, I know I need about 21" long collar. So I pre-cut a piece of parchment paper and I've folded to make sure that I've got 21 inches in length. The width is not super relevant. What is important is to have a straight edge, because when you will start rolling the sugar, that's going to be your straight edge. Now the top, it will be rough anyway, so it really doesn't matter. As long as you've got at least like 4 or 5 inches height, then you will be fine. If you're planning to make a super tall cake, then obviously you need to adjust the height of the paper and get a much wider paper. Okay, so that's going to be the strip for my bottom tier. For the top tier, I've got a 4-inch cake, but I took the measurements and I've put that extra inch, and I need about 14.5 inches long strip of paper. I will fold this in half and again fold the ends, because that will just keep my sugar in place. And I will just quickly take the tape measuring. Oh, that's actually a bit too short, so I need to get this folded just a little in order to get the 14.5 inches fit in here. Okay, that's fine. So comparing with the fondant, this sugar collar is not so flexible, so you need to get it to the right length. Good. So I've got the strips ready prepared. Now before doing the purple mix, I'm going to spray this with some grease. I think on the list of the consumables, I've only put the Trex, so you can either rub some Trex or you can use some grease. And the reason why I will do it is while rolling, you might end up getting your sugar stuck to the paper. But if you put the grease, it will come off very easy. So I'm just going to give a good shake and spray the surface, and that's ready. And I will just do the same thing with the second. And that's ready as well. And I will just get to color the purple. Now with the purple, I've got just a bowl. It doesn't matter if it's metal or glass or whatever. I've just picked the Pyrex one as it's clear and you can see through. And I'm going to prepare how much? I will probably go for the same amount because I want something some excess sugar, and also I want to create more like a marble effect on both bottom and top tier. So I will just put like 300 grams. And the same type of sugar. Good. And along with the 300 grams, I'm going to use the 50 grams, but this time I'm going to use the corn syrup. Okay. Now before adding the corn syrup, I'm going to put some shimmer. That's the violet shimmer, but it also says edible luster, so we're just going to squeeze some. It's quite sparkly, to be honest, with this one. Surprisingly, it's very hard to get purple color edible, and it's very hard to get sparkly color edible. Now I'm going to pop this color straight in here because I don't want to warm up the syrup. So you will see the difference if you don't mix properly. You might get some spots, but that's fine, as we anyway got to deal with the marbled sugar, so it's not the end of the world if it doesn't look perfectly even. And I will set the scale to 0 and add the 50 grams. Now, some of the corn syrups are darker in color. As long as your sugar panel is not white, that's also fine to use. Okay, 50 grams, that's good. And obviously just using the silicone spatula, I'm just going to get in the sugar. Now, in case that you cannot mix this properly by just using the spatula, you can grease your hands or your gloves and you can practically mix by hand, and the sugar will not stick too badly to your gloves or your hands if you do that. But we'll try to get it as even as possible without popping my hands inside. Okay, so those sugar panels do look great, but you need to practically make them in advance, ideally from one day to the other. If I've got an order and I think that whatever the customer wants goes along with a sugar sheet panel, I would always organize myself to make the panel the day before. It doesn't need more than probably like 3 hours drying time to be applied on the cake, but it will need few more hours to kind of get rid of the moisture and stay straight. And I've got a few examples and I will explain you what that means in a sec. Now, I've covered real cakes with those sugar panels and it's all perfectly fine as long as you make the cakes, you deliver the cakes and the cakes will end up being served in the same day. Even if they are kept in the fridge, they will still be fine. The panels will not collapse. But if the cake is a very moist cake, I will suggest you to protect the sugar panel by either coating the panel with some candy melt or with some cream, buttercream or something super greasy. As for example, I do make a lot of cakes with fresh cream and they're obviously very, very moist and they've got so much humidity inside. If you put the sugar panels, that moisture will be absorbed by the sugar. So I normally intend to coat with candy melt, and that's just an example. See, that was coated with some melted candy melt. I've just brushed some melted candy melt, and this is very kind of set and dry. It was done maybe like 2 weeks ago. This one was done a few days ago. So you see, you've got the shards and they don't lose their shape. But if you've got something fresh, I've got here an example of something which I've made about 3 hours ago. I've kept that into a bag so you can see how it looks like. So you see it's still flexible. Okay, so you always need to think about what you would like to achieve when you do your design to make sure that you allow the necessary time. So I'm going to spread the sugars. I've got the pink one here in the bowl and the purple one. So I'm going to do the both. Now I'm not going to measure quantity wise how much I'm going to put from one and the other. I will just judge by the eye. I know how much I've got in total, so just keep some for the top tier and I will just go for more purple on the base and then add some pink. You see what I've said right at the beginning when I said that in my opinion, even if you use the same quantities, it just seems that the corn syrup has got more moisture inside than the glucose. You see with the glucose, it looks a bit drier. Yeah. Okay, so just going to spread this and then just fold the paper. Just going to turn it. And again, just flip the ends to make sure that the sugar doesn't go on the side. Okay, and I'm going to use initially a board. It's just a wooden board, just to try and press the sugar. Now this rolling pin is great as it's very sturdy and heavy, but if you don't have one, then I'm afraid you need to put, you know, more elbow grease to set this. So any rolling pin will do, but you will just need to press harder. We might want to try a hammer, why not, on top of a board, just to help the sugar to get connected. Okay, let's see. Okay, it started to come up together. Still a long way to go, but at least it doesn't go everywhere on the side. And I don't need the board anymore. I'm going to carry on rolling, just using my rolling pin. And I will just try to tack this sugar and just press it to make sure it gets all stuck together. Rolling, pushing, as at this point is very, very soft. Okay, so just tuck in. And all the crumbs from the side can go in here. If you need to add more, you can add more. Just going to put a bit more purple. And as I said, if it sticks to your hands, you can always put some grease. But see, my gloves are greased, so all looks really good. Okay, just trying to give a bit more moisture, because the pink one, the one I made with glucose, it just looks a bit too dry. Okay, just going over again, and either put the wooden board on top or the marble rolling pin, and start rolling. So the time consuming bit is just stocking the sugar together. It doesn't take super long time to do it, but it does take a little while. Okay, so just keep tucking in. You can also get something heavy to put on top and just leave that on the side, and it will usually get stuck together. If not, you just need to push that in to make sure that the sugar gets connected. Okay, again. Now I know that my cake is about 4 inch tall, so the overall length shouldn't be more than like 5.5. So this practically is an excess, which I can very easily remove. It can be used, but I don't need it here. It can go back into my bowl. Now with all the leftovers and crumbs, you can just grind them down and reuse them, so you don't lose them. Okay, just putting the wooden board down. Okay, so see, literally just rolling, sliding the rolling pin. As this rolling pin is very, very heavy, it helps a lot. Okay, good. Just going to get those on one side, tidying up the area, and I'm just going to transfer this strip. That is the longest one, so just needs a bit more room. Okay, now just to show you, yeah, so it's tucked together, but you can't lift it. If you try to lift it, yeah, it's not going to work. Yeah, it comes away, it comes apart, so you can't do anything at this point. You just need to leave it on one side. If you want to get that kind of a rough effect on the top, you can, that's no problem. but you can do that even later. Just going to pick some bits out. As I know this is going to be far too tall for my cake. Good. And the rest will go on one side. Now if you want to speed up the process of drying, obviously you don't need to cover, you can leave it uncovered and the moisture will evaporate quicker. Usually it takes about 3 to 4 hours, but we do hope that by the end of the demo we still got a lot to go, preparing other bits and pieces and then doing the Isomalt and stuff. So hopefully that will be set and it will go on the cake. Now I'll put the second one. Again, just a bit of that purple with just a bit more of the pink. Now the strip this time is not super long, so I don't need very much. Just getting another full hand. Okay, so whenever you feel that the sugar is a bit too dry, you can add a bit more glucose or corn syrup, whatever, but it will take a bit longer to dry. Okay, again, just pressing down, folding the end. You don't necessarily need to fold the ends. The reason why I've suggested to do it is that it doesn't get, the surface doesn't get covered with sugar. Okay, I'm just going to press towards the edge. Oops. This is sometimes you get the sugar coming out. Just put the board on top. It just makes it easier. Just stuffing that sugar in here. Instead of a workout, oops. You press some sugar. Again, just make sure it's all tucked. And if you roll from this unfolded edge towards that covered edge, then you get a really nice straight edge, and also you don't get too many crumbs of sugar everywhere. Okay, just looking to see if they all came together. Pretty much. So ignore the fact that now it just comes apart, because that's normally what happens. So you can carry on rolling, or you can just stop here, and I think I'm going to stop. Just doing maybe 1 or 2 times and it's fine. Okay, and that will just go. In fact, I will transfer it onto the board, because otherwise my whole table it will be covered in sugar panels. And I'm going to set this somewhere on the side. Good. Now let's turn to this one. What I've got here, I've got something which I've made about 3 hours ago. I've prepared some black. I will show you how I've prepared it. So I've done it in advance, so just to give it the chance to dry. And then with the gold, I've actually used just normal sugar, a bit of all gold from PME, and some gold shimmer from Square's Kitchen. Yeah, it doesn't look so spectacular, yeah, as the normal gold. Yeah, it's still okay. But in here, for example, I've used some of the where is it? The Wilton sugar. So it looks much better, because the shimmer is uniform and it looks really pretty. But this is going to look fine in the end. it will give more like a rough texture of to the cake, but it will look fine. So I said I've done it around 4 o'clock, so it's got like 3 hours and something since it was put together. The black strips were made with CMC, and that is the quickest method. So the second method you've got on your printings, and the other sugar was just a normal sugar, similar with what we did a few minutes ago. Okay, so this is going to be used on the other cake as an example for how you do the inlay technique. That's how it's called, this technique, where you practically put something pre-cut on top of something which already is made. So in order to demonstrate that technique, I need another piece of paper which I'm going to grease, and whatever I've got left in here, let's try and mix some of this pink, which feels a bit too dry. I did say, in my opinion, the glucose doesn't contain so much water like the corn syrup does, and it just dries quicker. Okay. Good. I'm not looking for a particular shape. I just want a piece of sugar to help me to build up that pattern design. So just get it stuck. Just a little before doing the rest. But in case that you want to make a sugar color, you will just do the same thing I've done before. And I'm going to prepare the black. Now with the black, that's again just normal sugar, like caster sugar, which I've colored with some black dust. But I've actually used a full pot of the black from Squire's Kitchen. Okay, not too sure. I think I've got about 200 grams in here. Let's put that in. I'm going to mix by hand. You can also buy ready colored black sprinkled sugar from Wilton. That's a beautiful, beautiful black. It's actually the black I've used on that red and black cake, but this one is just like normal sugar. 190 grams, and I need 1 spoon of CMC. The CMC, you know, is that edible gum. Just turn the camera so that you can see what happens in here. So I'm going just to put a bit of CMC, about half of teaspoon. That much. And I'm going to stir this gum with the sugar, as if I will put the liquid straight over, it might actually turn up getting quite lumpy. So I'm just going to give a quick stir. Okay, and then I'm going to add the glucose, and I've got about 100 grams of glucose for 250 grams of sugar, but I had less sugar, so that I'll probably go for about 80 grams of glucose on this. It will turn up super sticky, but what I'm going to do, I will grease my hands and then just do it by hand. So we'll just pour about 80 grams. You can stick with the recipe, and I'm just playing with quantities here. For 250 grams, you should use 100 grams of glucose, but I'm going to put just about 80, as I've got about 190 grams of 73. That should be enough. Okay, 76 plus with whatever I got on my finger, it will be about 79. Yeah, good. So it's super sticky, but to make it more convenient to handle, I will just grease my hands. So just put Or you can also use tricks. Okay, so just put some oil. Okay, and you can just do the mixing by hand, or you can use the silicone spatula. But even if it's quite a large amount of glucose here, because we've got the CMC, it will turn up actually quite firm. Okay, so all I want to do is to grab this, just trying to put it against something lighter in color, as it's hard to see. Okay, it's literally just incorporating this sugar dust into the mixture. So if it gets stuck on the gloves, just rub that oil to make sure the sugar comes away. Okay, good. Just trying to get it on the table. So what I will do, I will just grab a piece of, where did I put my, can't see it. Can't see it, I'm getting blind. I will just put some cling film on the surface and just remove this out of the bowl, as it would be easier to incorporate. Okay, so all you need to do is just to keep kneading to incorporate all that sugar. So comparing with the other method where we had to deal with sugar which was kind of breaking apart, this one, it takes a little while to knead to get everything together, but it will get literally ready to be placed on the cake because it will turn up quite firm. I normally use this method to cut out the shapes, whatever, heart shapes, elongated shapes to mimic petals or leaves, and I intend to put those on top of a ready rolled strip. But you can obviously use it to create your side panel. And as you can see, even if it's just like normal sugar, it is quite sparkly. Now, I don't think it was a good idea to use the cling film, as I've managed to rip the cling film with the sugar, but never mind. Still got soft sugar, which soft sugar as is glucose, and the glucose is a kind of an inverted sugar. I think I will be just better by taking the cling film away. And then just do it straight on the worktop, and then I can clean the worktop. It's a bit messy, but never mind. Okay, so almost all incorporated. Now once I will have everything incorporated, I will just roll this black, cut out a circle to put on top of my gold cake, and then put the strip which was already done with the vertical strips and finish that one. And then I will just cut few little hearts and place them on top of the pinky one, just to show how that plaque is going to look like. And then we'll have a break for half an hour where hopefully the colors will be ready to be applied on the other cake, but we'll have to cook some isomalt, make the sails, and finish off the designs. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty much coming into a piece. Even if you've got some leftover sugar, it's no problem. Okay, now I'm just going to take those gloves away. All super sticky, super sticky. and dirty, as the black is super colored. Can't bring, oh yeah, couldn't remember where the parchment paper was. Okay, so I'm just going to transfer this in here. Now, because it's so firm, it doesn't even need to be sprayed with oil, but you can if you want. And I'm going to just roll this. Again, it's quite a bit of an elbow grease in here. It is very hard. In case it gets too hard, you can pop it in the microwave for a few seconds, well, literally a few seconds. If not, if you put too many seconds, more than like 3 or 4, you will end up burning the sugar. By just placing it for about 2-3 seconds, that will just help the glucose to get a bit more manageable. But as you can see, that's already the type of thing which we will expect to get from the other ones in about 3 hours. So it's a quicker process. But all I want now is to create a cover, just to put that on top of the cake. So in case that you want to decorate a cake and you've got to cut, trace a circle and put it on a cake, then that's the easiest way to do it. Now, just looking, silly me, I did not put any 6-inch board next to me, so I will just need to cut by hand, trying to estimate. But I'm going to use that lid as a guide and then just cut around it, as I don't need to be super precise. I can reshape. Getting this all right, so I can just judge by the eye. This is still maneuverable, so I can reshape in case there is no the perfect fit on top of the cake. Okay, to stick it, you can use some buttercream, or if your cake is already covered in buttercream, then you are perfectly fine. You just stick that on top. If your cake is covered with something super moist and with a lot of water inside, like fresh cream, I would suggest to spread a thin layer of melted candy melt to make sure that the sugar doesn't dissolve. Okay, so I've got this ready for doing the extra bit. You know, I said about making sure that you take the measurements of the color. This was another mistake. I mean, this is one mistake. The other one was no mistake, as I wanted to get that kind of a look. But in here was a mistake, as I automatically presumed that if I multiply with a pi, I would just get the circumference, which was not the case, because I forgot to bear in mind that the sugar sheet is not so flexible, and I did not add that 1 inch extra. So what I'm going to do here, I will just make something out of this black sugar, and I'm thinking about something like this. Okay, that will definitely need time to set, but if I will place it like here, it will just look nice. And I can just trim the base. And just to show you, as I said about the tracks, you can get some tracks and then just spread some tracks in here and make it to stick. Obviously you can use just buttercream, not tracks, but considering that my cake is actually a dummy, no one is going to eat it, and I will just stick this over. So I've nicely covered that gap. And also you can create like fabric effects by just flipping the sides or do whatever. It's just your imagination. But in case that you want to get a particular kind of curved shape, you should support with something underneath while it's drying, because this is going to be flexible probably for like another 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so by tomorrow it will probably collapse if it doesn't have a support in here. But that can just look quite cool with a fabric effect. Okay, see, as I've kept the cake in one side, the sugar panel on the top is started to stretch. Okay, and I can stretch it back because it's still flexible, so just bear in mind it's still flexible for a good amount of time. With the other pieces I've got left, just to show you how I did the other flowers and stuff, I literally just used some metal cutters, and see the color does come on my hands, even if it's edible color, but it should be easy to clean. Okay, so that's how I normally do the cutouts out of this type of sugar. Yeah, that's just enough as example. You can choose whatever cutters you've got. This can be stored into a bag. I've got some which I've made, as I said earlier today. And as you can see, as the time goes by, it gets a bit darker in color because that's literally the same type of sugar. The strip is quite elastic, so in case that you want to put a ribbon, you can also put a ribbon around the cake out of the same type of sugar. This was actually rolled, so I just thought I would put this on top of the smallest cake, which I'm going to put in here. But as I've got the dummy, I can just place it upside down and use the dummy as a guide to cut out the excess. And again, I can put a bit of Trex and stick that right on the top. Okay, so just a bit of Trex, and then just place that right on the top. Oops. Just got some Trex, I think. Okay. And I've got to put just that border around the cake. Get that sorted. Just quickly put the shapes over. I'm not, as I said, I'm not looking for a particular design. I'm only showing you how you can get a pattern design. So you pop the shapes over and then you start rolling gently to make sure that the shapes get incorporated on your sugar panels, and keep pressing them so they can join and just get sorted, and they can set together. Okay, and that will just go on the side. I should have a cake card somewhere. Look, this kind of collapsed. Oh, never mind, I will just do it a bit later. It was not enough tricks. So, and now going around this cake, just quickly with some tricks, just to put the strippy sugar panel. Now, if you've got, for example, a cake which is already covered with oh my god, who is calling me? If you've got a cake which is already covered with fondant, then you can put some Trex or buttercream over. If it's already covered with buttercream, that is not the case of doing anything else. Now, getting my gold strip and then just turning the image so that you can see me doing it. So just lift the panel and literally just stick the panel around the cake. Oops. Okay, I've made it a bit too short, but that's fine. Okay, good. So, getting the cake and then just placing this right on the top. Okay, so that's how I will do the pattern design. And then we'll come back after the break and then we'll finish off the sugar panels. We'll do the Isomalt and other bits. So if you've got any questions to pop, please pop the questions, and I will try to answer during the break, or I will answer when we'll start the second part of the video. I hope you've enjoyed, and let me know if it was all good. See you soon.